Hey, my friend, David White here from Learn Marketing AI. In this video, I'm going to teach you a simple two-step process that you can use to optimize any email sequences or any broadcasts that you've got running in your business so you can get more people opening your emails, more people clicking on your emails and actually wanting to check out your offer, and ultimately more people buying. Now, this is part of a little series that I'm putting together. The last video was about landing page optimization. I'll put a link to that in the description for today's video. And we're going to go about this a little bit differently to how we went about the last video. So when it comes to things like optimizing a Facebook ad campaign or a landing page like we spoke about in the last video, or an upsell video sales letter or something like that, it's kind of generally accepted what a good Facebook ad campaign or landing page or upsell video sounds like, or what it looks like, or what the best practices are around actually doing the thing. But when it comes to email, it's a little bit different. The way that you write emails is probably very different to the way that I write emails, which is probably very different to the way that anyone else watching this video writes emails. So I'm going to ask you some questions as we go through this process, and you can use these questions to help you figure out what is the right answer to the question, how can I make this email sequence or this broadcast get opened more, get clicked on more, and make me more money? So with that said, let's run through those two phases and let's go through some of these questions. Let me pull up my slides here. Going to embiggen them. That is a real word, embiggen. And we're going to start out first and foremost on the macro level and talk about an email sequence, which usually looks like this. Something happens that triggers the email sequence, and that might be a lead purchasing a product and going into an upsell sequence, opting into your list, registering for a webinar, showing up to a webinar. Maybe you launch, like, and you say, you launch a Black Friday sale and you say, that's starting on this date. We're going to put people into this sequence. They'll go through a bunch of emails. There'll be some kind of looming deadline that says take action before this discount expires or before these bonuses expire. And then the deadline happens. So when it comes to getting a whole campaign like this to work better, before we drill really deeply down into stuff like open rates, click rates, and revenue per email, here are some of the questions that you can ask yourself. Are you covering all the bases with your copy formats that you use in these emails, not just the basics? So there are a lot of different ways that you can put together an email sequence. One of the most common ones is gain, loss, threat, which is basically just emailing your list saying, hey, you should get this thing, or you should watch this thing. Here's everything that you've got to gain. Or you can say, if you don't watch this thing, here's what you're losing out on. And then you can threaten, and I don't like using that word, but you can threaten your list by saying, hey, if you don't buy or watch this thing, the discount or the bonus or whatever expires in 12 hours or 6 hours or whatever it might be. But there's a lot more stuff that you can say inside an email sequence. And this is really important because, and we'll talk about this in just a second, your audience is not you. The things that you care about and the things that you perceive to be important about your product and your offer are not the same things that your audience perceives as being important. So when I say copy formats, I'm talking about things like sharing proof and testimonials with your audience. Now, this is the most obvious example that I use because if you send me an email about your past clients, results and testimonials and social proof and all that sort of stuff, I do not care at all. I will never read that, but not everyone in your audience is like me. Some people really want to see that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that you could send in an email sequence to your list, is some kind of email that demonstrates proof and shows your audience, hey, here's people exactly like you getting results by using this thing. Going back to a theme that we spoke about in the previous optimization video, which was about landing page optimization, you can write copy about life before your product has done its job or life after your product has done its job, and really highlight to your audience, hey, if you're struggling with these things before my product has done its job, you don't need to. Let me help you fix those. Or you can write about, hey, if you want your life to look like this, or if you ever wondered what life might be like if you achieve these things, or imagine this, like talking about those aspirational things, depending on the person who's reading your email, one of those might resonate more than the other. You can also talk about helping them save time, helping them get results with less effort. You can talk about the mechanism of your offer and how it actually works. And an example that I'll use here from my days as a fitness coach, one of the things that I was very painfully aware of when I was first starting marketing as a fitness coach was that The Biggest Loser was like a really big thing at that time. And I knew when I spoke to people about exercise and training, one of the things that they might have been wondering and worrying about is this guy going to train me like, I'm a Navy SEAL, what's the word? Navy SEAL, like trying out for the Navy SEALs, like I see those trainers do on The Biggest Loser. Is this guy going to beat me to within an inch of my life for the hour that I'm in the gym? Is this guy going to tell me that I have no chance of getting results unless I spend 12 hours a week inside the gym? Talking about the mechanism, which also kind of relates to the commitment that's required from your audience to get results, can sort of deal with those objections that they may be having prior to actually committing to whatever it is that you're emailing them about. The next two are specificity and anti-selling. So these are copy formats that just basically says, hey, this program, this offer, this mechanism that I've put together is specifically for people like X. And of course, you describe people just like the ones that you're trying to get onto your email list. Or you can say, hey, you know what? You should not buy this product if you think that losing weight is as easy as getting a jab in the butt with some needle full of Ozempic and then just like, drinking a couple of shakes every single day. And, you don't really need to put any effort into it. And when you do those specificity or anti-selling type emails, people in your audience will be like, hey, you know what? Finally, someone's giving it to me straight. I knew that losing weight wasn't going to be easy. I knew that all these people who tell me, hey, all you got to do is get a jab in the butt, like there's got to be some kind of downside to that I don't want to pay. This person finally is giving it to me straight. So these are different copy formats that you can use. And if you're not using as many as possible in your email sequence, you should be. Second idea, are you emailing your list frequently enough? Now, people fall over themselves all the time when I suggest that if they're doing some kind of email sequence, they should be emailing their list twice a day. And the objection that I hear all the time, and it's totally normal, is, David, I don't want to annoy my email list. Here's the thing about most of the people on your email list. They're busy. They've got other stuff going on in their lives than just thinking about your offer. And they're probably not opening your emails as much as you actually think. So I will tell you this as a lesson from the trenches. Every single time that I have worked with a business owner and told them to send more emails about their offer, and you can just do as a test, like 2 emails on day 1 of your offer, 2 emails on the last day of your offer. Every single time I've gotten someone to do that, it has helped them increase their sales. And a lot of the time, it helps them increase their sales a lot. So if you just need to put in more emails to your sequence, I think you should consider doing that. Now, the last thing, and this is something that not a lot of people talk about, but they should, is have you thought about how your audience feels now and how you want them to feel when they're looking at your offer? Now, the reason why I say and not a lot of people talk about this, but they really should, requires us to take a step back in history. So some of the greatest marketers and advertisers of all time tried really hard in the books that they wrote and in sort of the lessons that they left us to hammer home to us, hey, people make decisions emotionally and they justify them logically. Here are some examples. Claude Hopkins, who was the guy who wrote Scientific Advertising. I'm not going to read out this entire quote, but basically at the very start of his book, he said, the things that interest you about your product are not the things that interest your audience about the product. Now, Eugene Schwartz, who wrote Breakthrough Advertising, said something very similar. He said, copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in your customer's mind and focus those onto a particular product. Robert Collier, author of the Robert Collier Letter Book, said the same kind of thing. I'm not going to read these out to you, but this is really worth leaning on. So many marketers from antiquity trying to teach us, hey, people make decisions emotionally and justify them logically. So think about this. When was the last time that you wrote an email or a sales page or filmed some kind of video promoting whatever it is that you've got to sell to your audience and thought very carefully about where might they be emotionally about the transformation that I'm going to try and help them achieve with my business? Are they hopeful? Are they disheartened? Do they feel dumb and inadequate because there are so many people out there using big words that maybe they don't understand? Are they angry about something? And once you've thought about that, think, hey, how do I want them to feel when they look at my offer. Because if you've got an audience who's discouraged or who's angry or who feels helpless about the thing that your product helps them achieve, they're not going to buy if they still feel that way when they think about your product. So this is sort of food for thought, if you will. This is not a really tactical action step, but think about how your audience might feel as they read through your emails, and then think about how you want them to feel when they click, when they go and check out your offer. So with that said, let's head back over to the slides and let's talk about diving into the micro part of emails, which is an actual email itself. All right, moving on. Here is the anatomy of an actual email. It looks a little something like this. You've got a subject line, and then sometimes, depending on what CRM you've got, you'll get a second subject line. So if you go to your inbox now on your computer, or if you open it up on your phone and you look at the emails that you've got, usually you'll see three things. You'll see the name of the person who's sending you the email, you'll see the subject line of the email, and you might see like half a line of copy that's sort of like a preview. I'm going to call this the second subject line. Not all CRMs allow you to put these in, but this is a second chance for you to get the people on your list interested enough in what it is that you're emailing them about to actually want to click. Then, of course, you've got the opening of the email, which can sometimes also be called the hook, or this would be where you'd put a really big idea. You've got the copy itself, the call to action, and sometimes it's worth putting in a PS as well. So I said at the start of this video, I was going to ask you some questions that would help you sort of figure out what you can do about your emails. Let's talk first and foremost about whether or not your emails are getting opened. So if you look at an email sequence or an email broadcast and you think to yourself, you know what, this isn't getting opened as much as I want it to, here are some things that you can consider. First and foremost would be a one-word subject line. A lot of the time, people try and get too fancy with writing subject lines, and it might be much better to just write something like hormones or patience, or what would be another example? CBO. If you're emailing your list about Facebook ads, CBO, of course, means campaign budget optimization, but like just one word, trying that a lot of the time gets much better results than sending your audience a long subject line. The next thing that you can do is try and combine different copy formats between your subject line and your second subject line. So there are different copy formats, which I sort of alluded to in the previous slide. You can talk about proof, you can talk about specificity, you can talk about benefits, you can threaten your audience, which might be like 6 hours left. You can also do blind stuff, which is that's just a word that I use to sort of arouse curiosity. So an example of combining two different copy formats might be if I was emailing my list about a Facebook ad course or something like that, my subject line might be CBO question mark, WTF exclamation mark. Then if I wanted to use a different copy format for my second subject line, I could be really specific and say how I increased cost per acquisition by 41.7% and give a very specific number or something like that. So that's just a different way of thinking about the subject line and the second subject line. You can try and arouse your audience's curiosity, and then you can threaten them, or you can talk about some kind of benefit, which might be like how to cut your cost per lead by 25%. And then you can threaten your audience with the second subject line. I shouldn't use that word threaten, but you can say something like 6 hours left to get the Facebook ads course. The last thing that you can do is ask yourself, are you being interesting enough, and is your list interested enough for you to send them the kind of emails that you're doing right now? So let me pull back from my slides here and let's talk about this. One of the things that I hate the most about being on other people's email lists is if they email me about stuff that I did not show an interest in. So I think it's fine every now and again to do a flash sale or to email your list with some kind of offer, but I get really concerned when I see marketers, for example, running a webinar campaign, which I don't go and attend, and then emailing every single person on their list with like the post-webinar sequence. Now, if I'm not interested in enough in the thing that you're running, whether it's like some kind of campaign, some kind of webinar or whatnot, if I have not engaged, don't put me through like a 4-day countdown sequence. Don't do it to me. I'm not interested. I didn't go and check out the webinar. You need to take another bite at the apple to get me feeling a certain way before you can send me those kinds of emails. So that's what I mean when I say, are you interesting enough? And is your list interested enough? Sending those kinds of last chance for access, or here's everything that I'm going to send you when you join, or upgrade your order type emails, they should only be sent to folks that you know are interested in what it is that you're emailing them about. So you really need to do a good job of segmenting your list. Now, with that said, we are going to move forward. Let me pull my slides back up here. And let's talk about whether or not your emails are getting clicked on. So I got a couple of questions for you to focus on here. If your emails are getting opened, but no one's clicking on them, or people are clicking on them and they're not buying or doing what it is that you want them to, first question, can you not fluff around at the start of your email? This is something that every blogger knows, is that a well-written blog kind of just gets straight to the point, and a badly written blog takes like 400 or 500 words to sort of introduce the premise and take a long run up on getting to the actual meat and content. If you're fluffing around at the start of your emails, think about like, how can I start this email with one big hook or one big idea and just get straight into the meat of it. Next thing, can your email be summarized in one sentence? This is another mistake that I see marketers doing a lot. They'll email their list about too many things at once. So if you think about that email sequence that I showed you a second ago, where it's like the launch of the sequence, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, however many emails following up afterwards. Each one of those emails should just be about one thing. So if someone's reading your email and a friend walks past and says, hey, what are you looking at there? They should be able to say something like, oh, I'm reading an email about how this guy cut his cost per lead by 37.1%. Or I'm reading an email about exactly how this workout program that I'm about to sign up for works. Or I'm reading an email about how artificial intelligence is really good at writing emails, or something like that. So that's the second thing. Can your email be summarized into one sentence? And if not, it's too complex. Third, like we spoke about earlier, is your copy before and after focused enough? Are you talking about all the things that your audience hates about their life before your product has done its job? And are you talking to them about all the things that they want their life to look like after your product has done its job? And then the final two, does your call to action actually sound valuable? And would bullet points be helpful to you? So these last 2 points, I want to show you a couple of examples of emails that have ended up in my inbox over the last week or two that kind of do a really good job of making a valuable sounding call to action and using bullet points. So here we go. On the left here, we have an email that was sent to me by Ezra Firestone, freakishly good marketer. This guy founded Smart Marketer. He's the owner. He's Boom by Cindy Joseph. I don't know if he's the owner or the founder or whatnot, but that's one of his companies. Created Zipify pages, and one-click upsells for Shopify, which is like an app, which is fantastic as well. And here's how he finishes this email. I don't remember what this email was about. I pulled it yesterday, but his call to action, which is represented by this link down here and this button, goes like this. Join me for a 60 to 90-minute presentation where I'll personally help you copy the strategies I'm using to grow my own 8- and 9-figure stores this year. Then he gives me a couple of bullet points. Then he gives me a little bit of proof, and there's the call to action. This email on the right here, this is from a marketer called Laurie Kennedy, who helps business health coaches market their businesses better. And she does the same thing. During the live training, I'm going to show you how to create or update your website so it's not a complete waste of money. Here are some bullet points. My goal for this training is to help you avoid the make side mistakes so you don't waste your time and money like I did. And the interesting bit about her kind of content, or this offer, I should say, which again, I don't remember super well because it arrived in my inbox yesterday. This was a training about how to get your website to bring you clients. So if you look at these 2 emails here, they're telling you around the call to action why you should join. Now, a lot of the time, people don't include this information near the link. And I know it might sound like I'm nitpicking here, but if you're going to ask someone to do something, click on this link and register for this brand new live training, or click on this link and purchase this thing and get a bonus gift or whatever it might be. That wording around that call to action has to be really tight. If you're saying stuff like, there's only 6 hours to go, I know that you're interested in marketing your business because you're on my list. I only think that action takers deserve to get results. And, there's only 1,000 seats. Click here to join me. None of that stuff makes me want to join your webinar. You got to talk about the before, the after state. You've got to talk about social proof. You've got to talk about something around that call to action that builds value. And using bullet points like I just showed you is a really fantastic way to do that. So there you go, my friend. That's 2 different ways that you can look at your emails. You can look at from a micro strategy and think about, what is my subject line? What is my hook? How can I mess around with the wording and try and get this particular email to work better? And then you can look at it from the macro strategy as well of, why is this campaign not performing as well as I want it? And what can I do? Where can I dial in to make it work better? So hope you found that helpful. If you did, click that subscribe button. And don't forget, there's a link below for my most recent video about how to do this process or something very similar for your landing pages. I'll see you in the next video.